Morning, good morning. It's pretty early in the morning. I'm pretty bored off my tits. I ended up going to bed wicked early yesterday because my wife and my kid are going to be flying in later today. I don't know. I guess getting all antsy and excited about that. I ended up going to sleep absurdly early, and I've got like 3 hours to kill before I have to head towards the airport. My kid and my wife are flying out to visit me for the weekend, so I'm pretty stoked about that. Actually, it's going to be a little bit longer than the weekend. So, where in the world am I? I think if you're looking at my Twitter, you could probably get a few hints. I'm on the West Coast, and I'm actually down here in the Long Beach, Los Angeles area. So basically, here's the city of Los Angeles. I think the city of Long Beach is right over here. I do oil and gas a lot, and usually that's what I'm here for when I'm in California is oil and gas. I don't think people kind of realize this, but California is completely dependent on the oil and gas prices. Like if California stopped doing oil and gas, I'm fairly certain Hollywood would collapse overnight and stuff. The whole reason Hollywood kind of exists is because of subsidies and stuff and shady tax practices. So anyway, I'm down here in the Long Beach area. I'm kind of staying in the Long Beach area. I guess Long Beach is traditionally a little bit poorer. I have noticed that their metro system, like their above ground, I guess they're like trains. The last stop at night is always in Long Beach, and so all the homeless people have been riding all day long. They basically get forced off, and then that's when downtown Long Beach gets pretty sketch. Because all of a sudden now you have all these meth heads that are trying to like crash out for the night. So where I'm basically working is this big, huge terminal island, and this is a big man-made island that has. I never noticed these boats. These looks like these are some sort of Navy vessels, like U.S. Navy. I'm here basically working on these key cranes. They have key cranes and then they have automatic stacking cranes. Some of these are automatic, some of these aren't, but these are the cranes that kind of arrange things, and they pick up the containers and they'll put them on the trucks to bring them over to the loading area for the truck drivers and all. Now, the thing that I've been kind of working on a couple of different things is one, the key cranes, and then two, some of these rail cranes. These rail cranes are super duper important because you don't want to have to bring truck drivers down into here. This traffic is god awful. If you drive a car anywhere around here, you don't want to have a bad back like I do because your back is going to get blown out. I'm kind of amazed I haven't wrecked my rental car yet because of some of the potholes that my piece of shit Toyota has like hit. And you ever hit a pothole really, really hard where it's not so much as like you can hear you're bottoming out the oil pan. That happened to me the other day when I was leaving work. I thought for sure I had cracked the oil pan. I freaked out. So I've been doing work on some of these rail cranes and also some of these key cranes. And you can kind of see here how we also have refineries and stuff. I was kind of bitching about this on Twitter about the air quality. This is some of the worst air quality on the planet. The entire cause, the vast majority of the cause of the terrible air pollution in LA, the vast majority of it's caused by these terminals because of the oil and gas refineries, and then of course all the cranes. A lot of these cranes are running on diesel and stuff. These container ships themselves are using sour crude, so while they're sitting there, they're pumping out horrible amounts of sulfur dioxide and shit. I would not want to raise my kid anywhere near here. But this terminal here, I'm fairly certain represents between a third and a sixth of the entire U.S. global trade. It is massive. It's absolutely massive. It's utterly insane, the size of everything. I just lost my, where was I? Los Angeles, there we go. It's pretty amazing. What is interesting, because I don't really normally get to talk to people too much about cranes, because like getting close to them is pretty difficult. However, on this man-made terminal island, because they have to get these ships like all the way up to here and stuff, because of that, these bridges have to be tall enough to allow fully loaded container ships, Panamax and Super Panamax container ships, to go past. So if you're ever driving around this area, you'll notice that these bridges skyrocket up into the air, and then they go right back down again, and then they skyrocket and they go back down again. The only bridge around here that isn't like that is this really old railroad bridge here. That's the only one that's like that. And that bridge, this bridge here is pretty old. I think it's over 100 years old. It was originally built by Henry Ford, and that was when this man-made island, I think, was just housed an automobile plant. So like what I mean here is if you go up onto this bridge here, you are as high up as the crane operators are. So you can kind of get a scope. You can actually, going across this bridge, you can kind of get a feel for how high up these cranes get. So if you see that white box right there, that's the trolley. And so the crane operator, he rides back and forth all day long along the trolley direction. So that's going back and forth with the spreader. And the spreader is what's going down. It's almost like the claw. We call it a spreader because it can spread out in 20, 40, and 45 foot container lengths. So the arm at which the guy goes out on is known as the boom. And the boom can also go up. The reason the boom goes up is that that's to give further clearance for the ships when they move. It does not take a lot to knock these cranes down. So the cranes are on rails and they can go along the shoreline. That's the gantry motion. The spreader going up and down, that's the hoist motion. So going down to the ground and pick it back up. You see these ladders here. You got to climb up there if the elevators are not working, and the elevators goes up one of the legs. The elevator is the last thing that gets commissioned. So what is my job? Inside of the machinery space, and this is where they're pulling up the ropes to kind of move the trolley back and forth and to bring the boom up and down. All these different motions are controlled by motors, electric motors. And I have to basically commission the electric motors, and I have to tune them to the variable frequency drive so we can actually control them. Otherwise, the motor just wants to run at 60 hertz, which obviously would not work. And then there's programmable logic controllers throughout the entire system, and there's a lot of digital inputs, digital outputs, analog inputs, analog outputs, basically the brains of the cranes and all. We try to simplify it as much as possible so that the crane operator literally is just moving a stick back and forth. And he doesn't even have to think about how far he's pushing or pulling, and the crane automatically will kind of protect itself. So like here we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 crow's nests. So these are 6 cranes over here. Move over here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are wow, those are really old small cranes. As you move around this terminal island though, there's just more and more of these cranes. They're just everywhere. This entire facility is just ports. It's just a series of ports on top of ports. So like what ends up happening is as soon as a boat gets pulled in and they dock it, they bring the cranes over and the cranes just start stripping the containers down, and they put them on the ground behind their legs, and then straddle carriers or whatnot, they pick up the containers and they put them in the right spot. I think that's those blue things are straddle carriers. I'm trying to get better view. Yeah, these are rubber mounted cranes, so they're just on wheels, so the guys can drive them around. I'm trying to remember, I think it was like one of the Grand Theft Auto games. I think I remember a longshoreman telling me that they actually had a level or something where you got to play around on one of the cranes, I think. So on this side of the island, there's even more. And again, this is a very, very steep bridge. So you've got to get up really high up in the air, and this is so the boats can get underneath this bridge. So then On the other side here, you'll see even we'll have another really tall bridge, and that's to get under, because the boats have to get over things. And there's just key cranes for miles and miles and miles. It's pretty wild. This is probably one of the largest complex ports. I want to say there's around 300 to 350,000 people are employed at this port in some way, shape, or form in terms of maintenance and so on. And again, it's a major pollution. It causes a lot of pollution here just because everything just running 24/7. These trucks are everywhere. They just destroy the roads because they're heavily laden all the time. Excuse me. I have been struggling like crazy to breathe. Let me see if I can find a video on YouTube of something. Crane hatch removal. So this is one of the things that's the most neurotic thing. So this
I
is
got all the cans off the top of the ship, and now I'm going to go dig inside the ship. So what I'm doing right now is I just landed my first lid,
doesn't look very tall.
And I'm going to go grab 2 more lids off the ship, set them out here on the dock so that we can start grabbing the cans inside the ship. So just give you a little bird's eye view of
and so once they get the ship,
you'll see the containers here
hatch
underneath the lid.
The most dangerous operation.
There's my first group of containers there.
So this hatch has been removed.
There's a
now
lid right there in front of me, and I'm going to grab the offshore lid. Now the reason why I'm grabbing the offshore lid because it's the same size as the inshore lid. The center lid is a little smaller, so we usually stack those on top. But
to the left,
you can see those little green markers. There's 4 little holes down there. I gotta land this crane inside of.
So the crane operator has to get this right. So he's trying to land the spreader.
And we got it on the first shot, which is pretty good.
Twist locks into these
so now I'll pick this lid up.
He's going to engage the twist lock and then pull this up. This is a massive plate, and if for some reason
as soon as I clear these stacks, I'll start dragging it out.
It'll actually yank the whole crane down with such force that
signal just told me that it's clear to come on out. He stopped all the traffic.
We call it snag.
As you can see,
it's kind of a good name for it. It's way more terrifying than it actually is. So when you get snag, it kill all energy of the crane and hold all the ropes taut.
Make sure I clear the stanchions of the crane there.
Release the ropes one by one. Because if you do it all at once, the crane can actually flip backwards and collapse.
Keep lowering it down.
Now, removing these hatches is very dangerous because if you notice this guy, when this hatch is up in the air, he can't see shit. He cannot see anything. These crane operators get paid really good money if you can handle heights. The entire time you're up there, you're shaking and you're looking at a glass bottom. I don't really like heights all that much. I don't like it when I have to drive these cranes.
That's looking good right there.
I have to do that from time to time. I'm not doing a full ship like these guys are doing. These guys make really good money. Just because one, it's a pretty stressful job, but two, it's also a really monotonous job. Like that's kind of the worst job to have, where it's both.
That's basically what it looks like underneath the ship.
Boring.
All ships have these lids that they sit containers on.
Over again,
cover up the holes inside the ship.
Wrong. So you gotta pull this crane, his head back up, so you can actually. Where he had it zoomed in, where you can just see the glass. Or you didn't see the glass bar. So here's another example. So that's where the guy's at, where it's going in and out. That's the spreader. So right now this spreader is probably spread out for a 45-foot container. They got 2 flippers down, so he's going to come down, and there's these little holes here where he puts the little pegs in there. The pegs twist, and those are the twist locks. So when he gets the twist locks engaged, he can then lift the container up. Over and over and over and over and over. I got to do it as many times as I can. And I don't know where this is. The people that build these big tall cranes at CPMC based in China, nobody else can really build them anymore because China will just basically underbid you no matter what. Yeah, this is a very slow, tedious kind of thing. Not really tedious, but they're constantly limbo. That's in China. I want to say limbo in China. And this is the view from the ship when they're putting the containers down. And sometimes they have to get the containers down below deck. So you can see they're trying to hit the guidelines. So yeah, that looks like that's a 40-foot. These right here are refrigerated containers. Some of these containers have like stuff that has to be powered. It's a very, so here comes the, one of the hatches being opened. That is just, that's really heavy. And then the bad thing about doing the hatch is operators can't really see, below the hatch. When that thing hits the ground, it is like boom, ground hits. If you're wondering, ships hit into cranes all the time. What was it? Abu Dhabi crane incident. This was actually at a port that was right next to the port I was working at in the United Arab Emirates. So they got the ship coming in. When these ships come in, they're under control of the harbor pilot, who's a local who's supposed to be the expert on the waterway. He should not be coming in close to these cranes. The whole reason we can move the cranes along the gantry is so we want to park the crane, or we want to park the boat and then move the cranes. He's coming in wrong, so he's got two options. Either one, back up and do it right, or two, what he tried to do, which was Tokyo drifted. He just basically gunned the engine and turned as hard to port as he could. It is not going to work. The only reason I'm showing you this, nobody got hurt. Or, no, I'm sorry, nobody got killed. Plenty of people got hurt. Nobody got killed. What was really even insane was this harbor pilot wasn't even blowing the blast alarm to warn people. When the crane impacts the ground, it'll actually cause the closed-circuit TV to stutter. So that's their operation building right here. Their machinery space and their counterweight barely missed that. If that counterweight had hit that building, it would have instantly flattened it. You see all the people running out. This, of course, is a bad time because you can't just cut up this crane. It's very dangerous. This crane weighs hundreds of tons. Maybe not hundreds of tons, but it's not something that you can easily disassemble. Again, nobody got killed. Somehow, nobody died. But plenty of people were hurt. I want to say it was around 6 people were hurt. I guarantee you that that harbor pilot ended up in a underground basement or whatever, and they were beating the shit out of him with a rubber hose, demanding to know if he was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Because in the Middle East, that's their boogeyman for everything. But key cranes, they get hit all the time. Yeah, these harbor pilots and stuff. See that one there? That's a controlled demolition. Here's one from Jacksonville, Florida. So when the wind gets really bad, you have to have these cranes in a stoke position. We put they're like big heavy metal pegs that go into the ground. When the wind takes off, they didn't have this one in the stow position, and when the wind starts blowing, it's enough to push past the brakes. Boop. Well, that's an expensive screw up. Oh, that's an even more expensive screw up. And of course, these two cranes are probably really severely damaged. So, yep, that's some really, really expensive scaffolding. Or scrap metal, I should say.
Ever wondered how this peculiar tiny device could transform your living space?
I don't know if this
Research
is a good
indicates
idea
that indoor air pollution.
I have to go back out there on Monday. We'll see. I might just be freaking myself out. Wait for it. You can kind of see how far down these guys have to get sometimes. The other big thing is keeping track of all these containers is super important. because we want to limit the number of moves that you're doing. Okay, he's really slacking these ropes. What is he doing? These ropes should not be this loose. He's like slamming the container up and down. Okay, you got it off. He's gonna slam into another container. Yep. Yep, that can happen on these. Our newer crane systems are fully automated, so they keep track of. They'll keep track of where the stack is, so you don't slam into that. You really don't want to do that because these ropes get bent and stuff, and yeah, that is not good. And of course, whatever he does is the whole crane is shaking violently because there's spreaders. This spreaders probably weigh like a dozen tons or so. Yeah, that guy probably got screamed at a lot. The other fun thing too is they'll like make us watch videos whenever we come to terminals. That's not okay. This did not tear loose. I'll tell you exactly what they did wrong here. These are two 20-footers, and he probably has the crane in a 40-foot container length, or I'm sorry, the spreader in a 40-foot to container length, and he didn't tell the crane system, hey, you're two 20s. You're not a single 40. That's what happened. Again, you got to be real careful with these things. I don't want to make it sound like these acts. Oh, yeah, this is another fun one. This is where truck drivers don't release their twist locks, and the crane operator has no way of knowing that this happens. So they're going to apply the twist locks up here to lift it, but he's got to have the twist locks on his bed released. So he's got that one released. He doesn't have this one released. And if the crane operator is not paying attention, the cranes can certainly lift one of these up. Yeah, dude, that's you as the truck driver. You're the one that effed up, not him. Don't even go into the cab, dude. What are you doing? Just stand away from it. I'm not a super fan of truck drivers because truck drivers will do shit like this and then they blame you. And it's like, no, dude, your only job is to release, 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 release. That is all 100% on you. And they'll put in a claim with the port, saying that they're the ones that, the port is the one that did it. This was a pretty infamous one. This was a Chinese boat going into Hong Kong.
The colossal container ship Durban, operated
Taiwan,
by the Orient Overseas
the boom's
Container
down,
Line,
because this crane is working on this boat. This
could be
idiot
seen making its way to
Captain
Pier
Harbor
66
Pilot
of the
is just
port of
driving through,
Kaohsiung in
and
Taiwan.
He's going to start clipping these boom arms.
The
They
ship
can't
got
get 'em up
dangerously
fast
close
enough.
to another container ship, the
There
docked
were
YM
people in these
Constancy,
cranes.
at Pier
'Cause they
17
were
near the
working,
container
you know,
yard
and
of
of course,
Yangming
you can't
Marine
just climb out of
Transport
the
Port.
crane and climb down.
The
The trolley
Durban's
has to
pilot
be
was
parked
unable to slow
and stuff.
down
That takes
and
a little
stop
bit
the
of
ship,
time.
which could be seen sideswiping the bow of the YM
And I'm sure people are like,
Constancy.
well, what about, don't you have, like,
The incident is said to have
tugboats
taken
and shit?
place on
Tugboats
June
don't
3rd
stop
at about
nothing.
11 a.m.
Tugboats are there to help guide you when you need to push the boat, like, port or starboard a little bit. They cannot stop a fully loaded container ship, or in this case, I think that's an oiler. There's nothing to stop, so it's
Eventually,
going to keep pushing up
the
against
Durban's
this boom.
bridge collided with a
now
docked
it's starting to
crane's
twist
boom.
the crane, and the whole crane's going to
The
collapse
Durban
with guys
continued on
it.
her path, her bridge pressing on the crane's boom. The container crane GC8 suffered from a structural failure and began to collapse onto the dock.
Accident. What's funny is I have coworkers of mine who
Containers
complain
were
that
seen
the
tumbling like dominoes as the crane collapsed.
Yet,
The
these are
crane
guys that
smashed
live
into
and work
another
in office
crane
doing
before
automation
hitting the
stuff.
ground.
You cannot get them to get on the one in
Dock
these cranes,
workers
the
on the
moment
ground
they have
could
to
be
stand on
seen
one of
running
these
away
cranes.
from the crash site.
And again, what sucks for the port is you can't do anything around this whole destroyed bit of scaffolding. And then, of course, all the containers are now damaged, so that's a huge insurance policy kind of thing. You've got to cut up this crane into sections. Meanwhile, it's not just this crane that's damaged. The cranes next to it are also got damaged. Everything's just basically freaking damaged. So usually what ends up happening is the boat captain will try to like
It was
sheepishly get as
reported that a
far away as
dock worker
possible.
suffered from a
Meanwhile,
laceration on his right
a
arm
team
while two
of their
engineers were
equivalent
trapped
of Navy
inside the
SEAls
crane
store
before
and
being
takes the
rescued.
boat. He's like, no man, you ain't going nowhere. You ain't going nowhere. And of
You are
course,
watching
you
the
can't do anything
Independent
around here.
Singapore.
This takes like months to clean
Subscribe
up.
to our
It
channel
takes
for
months.
more
And of course,
news and
that
documentaries.
shipping that key crane is just it's gone. It's ruined. And you know, this could be enough for one shipping company to they'll just declare bankruptcy. Well, then the port is really screwed.
Thinking to start cutting carbs. I need to drop my belly fat.
So,
if you want to drop this.
Oh my lord! How on earth can you do something like this? Oh my god! I don't. So many questions. So many questions. I think you guys can figure out how this thing's supposed to work. It's almost like a forklift, but it's got it's got a lifter. So they got the other lifter over here, and they got another one over here. They're trying to use chains to lift up this container just so they can get this back end of this to fall down. This is the kind of crap that I'll run into from time to time. I have a lot of respect for a lot of the longshoremen, but like sometimes you'll see somebody do something like this. It's like, how did you do this? This actually looks. This could actually be Port LA. This could be here. The outside looks like that, and the colors look like this one section of the port. This is incredibly dangerous because these containers, these are probably filled. They could be empties. You don't know what's inside of them. But even in empty containers, a lot of weight. That's actually some pretty impressive coordination there.
Wow.
Alright, Bill, you're not allowed to touch this ever again. But these containers fall over, it's a real nightmare. Actually, the biggest thing that's terrifying is if they ever have a situation where they lose the container database that maintains where all these containers are. Even if the database goes wrong by like 15 minutes, you're talking about like tens of thousands of containers potentially in the wrong spot. And that in itself can shut down a port for a crazy amount of time. That recovery is pretty impressive. I'm going to give these guys a lot of credit. That was a very impressive recovery.
Hi, my name's Nikki. I'm a terminal operative here at London Gateway.
That's
Welcome to
Dubai
Markets in the Sky.
World. They're one of the larger port maintainers. London. I guarantee you this port is slowed down to a complete fucking stop because Brexit. Brexit has to be the dumbest thing I've ever seen an island nation do in its life. I know there are people out there who are like, no, they had, it was a good idea. No. If you look at their economic numbers and their number of exports, it's been a disaster. Like, I'm just talking about it from a socioeconomic, or from an economic standpoint. But anyhow, it's probably early enough now to find a restaurant that's open. Or, I'm sorry, late enough, I should say. So I'm going to try to get something to eat. I hope you're all doing well. I'll try to post this at some point. I'm sorry this isn't a Pat video. Frankly, Pat really hasn't done anything that interests me of late. I know he's got that lawsuit going on. It's going to be a while before anything interesting happens. I noticed like one of my comments on like the previous video, somebody's like, yeah, this is probably Pat, the lawyers probably didn't write this because of all the spelling errors and stuff. This is the phenomenon that has always amazed me about lawyers. Now, I've had to participate in, I think, 2 lawsuits with my line of work where I got called in as like a witness or whatever. And I have been sued before, and this was when I was in college. I don't even want to talk about it. But all 3 cases, long term, I wasn't even paying for anything. But the one thing I really have discovered over the years is do not be surprised, even if it's a high-priced lawyer or whatever, that their use of grammar in English is god awful. It's kind of ironic to me because I'm so used to people saying how like me as an engineer, I'm terrible with English and shit, and like, oh yeah, engineers, they can't write for shit. Pretty much every single legal document that I've ever seen from a civil or a criminal court case is just filled with fucking spelling errors and shit. I remember the last time I was a witness for a civil case, and you get served to appear and stuff. They had my own name misspelled, which, I can understand if I had like some crazy like 14-digit Polish name or something. Whereas my last name is Smith. It's literally one of the most common names in America, and it's not like it's got like some weird esoteric spelling. So like just because there's like spelling errors and stuff, or it's like it seems like a really like almost childish like English levels, don't assume that that's just because that's Pat doing the writing. I find that at times lawyers, it's just odd to me because you would think that if you're a lawyer, you have to be really, really good with like grammar and spelling and just getting your point across. And I find that legal writing at times it's just garbage tier. So I don't know. I don't know who wrote this thing. I don't know how involved the lawyers are. It will be interesting to watch, but like just for now, it just doesn't seem like there's anything interesting happening. So I don't feel like bullshitting about it just yet. I hope you're all doing well. Take care of each other. And I guess, ciao.